While the media keeps you all distracted with the Greek alphabet and tales of worker shortages, I think it's time to discuss why some workers don't want to go back to work or work in the traditional corporate American structure. Some may feel bullied, some may feel taken advantage of, and some may even feel discriminated against. All in all, some are just sick of the corporate American brand of employee abuse. Ladies and gentlemen of the internet, this is your wake-up call. Dear corporate America, it has been brought to my attention that many of your businesses are suffering a so-called shortage of workers. Perhaps you all should have given a damn about your workers when they were loyal to you. Maybe you should have been concerned about the well-being of your employees, and you care more about padding the pockets of your CEOs and your executive teams. This is not a shortage of workers. This happens when people are tired of being overworked, underpaid, and underappreciated. America, you have a notorious history of prioritizing profits over your employees. For decades, you've been taking advantage of your workers with meager pay and paying your CEOs ridiculous amounts of money on the backs of those same employees. For years, you all knew people could eventually get tired of you taking advantage of them.
You knew then, and you did nothing.
Let's take a quick look at the salaries of some of these CEOs. Don't get me wrong, some of these companies pay a decent amount, but these CEO salaries are ridiculous when you see how many times more they are getting paid than their employees. There are a lot of other variables regarding these salaries, and I've already made a video going deeper into detail about the disparities between employees and workers. You can see that video by clicking the link above if you're interested. According to data compiled by Bloomberg, the median ratio between the pay for S&P 500 CEOs and their typical employees rose to 182 in 2020, up for a third year in a row. Some firms logged ratios in the thousands. Yet, it is damn near impossible to get some of these companies to give more than a 2 to 3% raise. The prospect of amassing 10-figure wealth leading a publicly traded company isn't new. A decade before the 2008 financial crisis, when stock options were the rage, Coca-Cola companies, and I think I'm pronouncing this correctly, if I'm not, forgive me, Roberto Goizueta became one of the first CEOs to amass a billion-dollar fortune solely from compensation. This is a part of the wealth gap issue that is the foundation of American greed. Understand that collectively, some of these CEOs essentially do not care about their employees. Now, I said some of these CEOs, so all of you people who only heard me say these CEOs, you're wrong. From my own experiences in corporate America, they care more about their money and how they can cut costs while keeping their own salaries high. Let's talk about some of the things that I've witnessed personally. While working for a certain fireworks company in Dana Beach, Florida, I managed the warehouse. I managed the budget, hired, fired, negotiated temp agency contracts, etc. I did go over budget on occasion because I saw the need to provide raises and promotions, which reduced the massive turnover. Plus, one of those purchases was buying a camera system that caught stealing that was not coming from my department, like some other managers said. During one budget meeting after I had written raises and new warehouse positions into my budget, the owner at the time said to me, "Why do they need extra money? They are just workhorses."
What the hell did you just say?
Another time, I was working at a certain payment processing company in Coral Springs, Florida. I was chosen to provide training and guidance for a new team who had just finished training on a new Android-based POS system that rhymes with Rover. They asked me to train and mentor the new team after they completed training. They also allowed me to choose my own team to assist. Now, I did see some inherent flaws in the way that they were managing it and the way they were doing things, so I wrote a proposal hoping to streamline the process, and for my suggestion, I got benched. They removed me from helping the team and eventually benched all the people that I chose. Then they started assigning less experienced people to help who continuously came to my desk to ask questions on how to train other people. Now, I guess that could have happened because I had more product knowledge, but I'm sure they made a sound decision not based on any animosity towards me. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of people all over the country and the world who can relate to having to train people to replace you either in a project or a position. Management is not rocket science. Treat people as humans, and you must genuinely care about helping to develop their careers. Eventually, I got fed up and I began applying to other departments. For 1 year, I applied to positions I was clearly qualified for. I had excellent interviews, but time and time again, I would not hear anything from the interviewers. Later in the year, an employee came to me and told me in confidence that all of this was happening because they were offended by my proposal and thought I was trying to take over, so they decided to blackball me. This is absolutely ridiculous. These are the types of things that people are sick and tired of. Long story short, I documented everything over the next several months and delivered a 99-page package to the corporate officers before resigning. Those wonderful details are another story, but this type of thing happens a lot there, and it probably still is. These types of career assassination attempts go on in a lot of companies in corporate America, and people have gotten so sick and tired of it. Workplace bullying is also why people are tired of this corporate American bullshit. Work is stressful enough without having to worry about being bullied or harassed. Negative effects are not limited to the targeted individuals and may lead to a decline in employee morale and change in organizational culture. I've never been bullied at work, but I have been harassed and treated unfairly on many occasions. Again, these are the types of things employees have had to put up with for a very long time. Then what often happens is that the negative culture drives out the efficient employees and the bulk of the work falls on those remaining. Managers will then try to enforce unrealistic expectations and the culture is just destroyed from that point forward because now you've got to take on the work of a bigger team that's been reduced to just a handful of people because of bad management and bad decision-making by the executive team. On top of that, all of these employees watched as larger companies grabbed the PPP money meant for small businesses, many of them not even returning the money.
Which businesses were approved for the first round of loans?
About 1.6 million businesses were approved. The average loan size was $200,000. But the issue that's been frustrating first with this program was that it was supposed to be, it was sent as first come, first served. So there was no real government oversight and said, hey, where we need it most, that's where this money is going. No, it was whoever showed up for the first in the door. And that meant companies with more resources were able to get there. And also, Texas ended up getting a lot of money, even though there's been a relatively few cases there. New York got the fourth amount of funds, even though it has well more cases than others. Other frustrating things were like construction got a lot of money, even though in many states, only 6 states, construction's been shut down. Other places it's considered essential. So it's not clear the aid went to where it was supposed to because of this first come, first serve. Then secondly, the thing that's frustrating people now is that it appears that when it got to the banks, it wasn't first come, first serve. Many of the banks, and there are a number of lawsuits against the big banks, say that the banks put their biggest clients first so they could maximize their profits off of this program.
The pandemic has opened people's eyes. You had companies telling their employees they were adopting a plan to have them work either entirely or partially remote, then changed their minds and made them all come back to the office. I understand if your responsibilities involve interacting with other employees, but what is the issue for those who can do everything remotely? They get to save money on gas, wear and tear on their vehicles, lunch, and ultimately do not waste valuable time just sitting in traffic. Some even find that they are more productive when working in their own space at home because they're comfortable. Now, Let's talk about nepotism and favoritism. So many places in America seem to have these things listed as job requirements based on their actions. I have watched many people lose opportunities over many years simply because they do not kiss as much ass as other people do. A part of the problem has been that many companies do not understand how to select management. Again, this is not rocket science. Many of these managers cannot motivate or encourage their staff and have no idea about the fundamentals of team building. I've been in situations where a company hid personal expenditures in my budget, thinly disguised as a work expense. Was that Dania Beach again? Possibly. I've even been in situations where I contacted the EEOC and the NAACP. You know what happened? Not a damn thing. These organizations are powerless against corporate America. Sure, they have had some success here and there, but they're doing nothing to get the needed results in the big picture. It's refreshing to have a manager come in, lay out a game plan for developing and promoting from within the team, and then execute those plans. Managers like that encourage loyalty, and it motivates employees to work hard. In those rare instances, work does not feel like work. It feels like an extended family. So I have a quick interview question. Why are the interviews set up like interrogations? So your idea for selecting the right person for the job is to create the most intimidating environment possible? Do you know what would be better than interrogating them? Getting to know the individual, maybe asking some questions that are not necessarily all job related, or maybe share some non-confidential things about your culture and the office culture and the people around and see how the person responds. Interrogation just makes people prepare to give you answers they think you want to hear. You're not getting to know what that real individual is. In order to get to know what a person is really like, you have to show them what you're really like. It's ridiculous. Some people naturally get nervous when they're in front of others, which does not disqualify them from potentially being that next gem. And why do you need to have panel interviews or, as I call them, gang interviews? Again, some people will get nervous at the mere sight of an interrogation disguised as an interview. Some people just are bad interviewers. Yes, I know what I said. The people conducting the interviews are sometimes bad at it. Why would you want to make someone uncomfortable that you may choose to work with you? That makes no sense to me. Anyways, let's get back to the subject. You can't create an environment where employees feel used, abused, taken advantage of, and treated unfairly, then tell the corrupt media that it's because of worker shortages. They don't want to come back because they're tired of corporate America's nonsense and they've been driven out of the workforce. If corporate America were an environment conducive to professional growth and development for all employees, this would not be a thing. Most people would enjoy going to work, and they would not be there only until they can find something better. So many decisions defy logic or intelligence, yet many companies still drive productive, loyal employees out of the company and replace them with less efficient employees, mainly because they can control them better or pay them less, or a combination of both. I don't know, because I don't treat people unfairly. They make decisions that destroy the very fabric of what the company was and could be had intelligence played a role in the decision making.
The Hill's opinion contributor Lane Wyndham writes in a new op-ed, quote, "As we approach Labor Day, America's working people are deep into a protracted general strike. Millions are refusing to go back into low-wage, no-benefits jobs that require they abandon dignity and rights at the workplace door." The writer continues, quote, "Their struggle has brewed for 40 years as wages stagnated, benefits vanished, and public policy offered working families little reprieve. Employers complain that too few people are returning to work, but America's, quote, labor shortage is really a shortage of good wages and workers' rights on the job."
Many companies pay new employees more than those who have been there a while and are loyal. This has nothing to do with school or education. I have witnessed educated employees being paid less than new employees. Before you take offense to this, we all know about equally matched people getting different pay based on race, sex, etc. So many companies have been caught doing it, so I don't want to hear it. Listen, it's well within your power to reverse this so-called employee shortage. The question for you, corporate America, is when will you start treating employees like people and not like workhorses whose numbers appear on a spreadsheet? This has been your wake-up call.